We have breaking news out of the NFL where the Browns have named Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback. He beat out Kenny Pickett and rookies Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders for that QB1 job in Cleveland. The 40-year-old Flacco entering his 18th NFL season and his second stint in Cleveland. Last year, he started 6 games for the Colts, throwing 12 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Flacco will make his 2025 NFL debut on September 7th while they host the Bengals. Danny Kanell joining us now with this breaking news. Joe Flacco named the starting QB. We were just talking about it earlier. Did they make the right choice, Danny?
Yes. I think this is zero surprise to anybody that's followed the Browns this offseason. Joe Flacco is the seasoned veteran who's played a ton of football with a very good defense, a running game, and a revamped wide receiving core. They're just hoping they get stability. And what a coach is always going to lean to is the known versus the unknown. And I know it's going to be hard for people to understand because they're like, well, some guys popped during the preseason and Shedeur looked great in a half of football. We already know what Joe Flacco can do. We're not 100% certain. I know it's great, but preseason football is different than regular season football. The good news is, for the Browns, I think you develop some depth behind Joe Flacco so that if it doesn't work out or if he gets hurt, they have plenty of options to turn to if he should struggle or if he gets hurt. So I think all of this is pretty much what I expected, most people expected from Kevin Stefanski from this announcement was all along going to be Joe Flacco.
There's a stat coming out from Heath Cummings right now. Joe Flacco, last 17 starts in the NFL, 4,755 yards and 32 touchdowns.
That's pretty impressive.
I got to confirm that, but if those numbers are correct.
How far back do you have to go for him to start 17 games? That may be a while back, but the guy can sling it, you know, and the way that, so I think you hear 40-year-old quarterback, we have to readjust our minds. We already saw Brady play into his 40s. The NFL is a different product now. It's not as taxing on your body, especially as a quarterback. How much they protect you and you're not allowed to get hit. It's not that intimidating to be 40 years old and go against all these young guys when you don't have to worry about guys ripping your head off. He
spoke with our Aditi Kinkhabwala a few weeks ago, and he said, I feel like I still have a lot to bring. I don't want to be a backup. I want to play football. So what is the expectation now that the Browns have? How many games are we looking at that you could see them potentially going out there and winning?
I think they could be a 9 or a 10 win team. I mean, and I do like the makeup of this team. I think the style of play of what they want to do offensively suits Joe Flacco well. I think it's one of the reasons that Shedeur excelled in the preseason because it's more of a play-action, pocket passer type of system, which I think fits Flacco to a T. I know they've got to figure out Quinshon Judkins and some of the issues that are going on with him, but I really like Dylan Sampson, their pick that they took a little bit later to possibly step in and fill a void in the backfield for them. So, and then we got to think about what they did this offseason, too, with Myles Garrett, paying him. Their defense, I think, is going to be one of the things for them to hang their hat on. Mason Graham, one of the rookie first-round picks that they brought in there, is a player that potentially could wreak some havoc. So I think it is more of a traditional offensive style where you're taking some play-action shots down the field, trying to run the football, and playing really good, aggressive defense.
So what does this mean for the QB room? Okay, so we got now Kenny Pickett, we have Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders all like sitting in the wings. Do we keep 4 quarterbacks on the roster?
No, I don't think so. That is just, there's too many. It's a numbers game, and you don't really have that luxury of being able to keep 4. I think Kenny Pickett's probably the odd man out. Do they try to move him? But very rarely do you see a team move on from their drafted young quarterbacks, whether it's a 3rd rounder or a 5th rounder, which is Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, draft slots. So I think they probably go with the youth movement behind Flacco, which again is a great opportunity for those young players. Kenny Pickett, I'm a little bit disappointed, I'm sure he is either, that he couldn't take over that job. He is somebody who was there earlier, could have competed, had an equal footing with Joe Flacco. I know he's been banged up a little bit, wasn't able to actually get on the field, but I just wonder if this might have been his last opportunity to be that starter in the NFL, and it came up just short, and I wonder if he's the odd man out of this room.
All right, Danny Kanell with this breaking news. Joe Flacco is going to be your starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Danny, thanks for your time.
You got it.
Of course, we have all the breaking news right here on CBS Sports HQ. Every hit, every highlight, all the breaking news. Scan that QR code and watch us streaming free 24/7. On the other side of this break, we're going to have more on the breaking news out of the NFL. The Browns naming Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback. Aditi Kinkhabwala, who's been very tight with this team. She's going to join us next. We've got breaking news out of the NFL where the Browns have named Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback. He beat out Kenny Pickett and rookies Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders for the QB1 job in Cleveland. The 40-year-old Flacco entering his 18th NFL season, his second stint in Cleveland. Last year, he started 6 games for the Colts, throwing 12 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Flacco will make his 2025 Browns debut on September 7th when they host the Bengals. Aditi Kinkhabwala joining us now here on CBS Sports HQ. You know this team inside and out. What did the Browns see in training camp that ultimately made them decide on Flacco, Aditi?
He was the most available quarterback. We just heard Danny Kanell say this. Everybody else in the room got hurt. And look, Joe Flacco, obviously, I sat down with him. I went and spent a whole day with his family in July. He fully expected it to win this job. He wanted to win this job. He said he wasn't going to be doing this if he didn't think he had a shot to win this job. But unfortunately, Kenny Pickett, who started camp by taking the first team reps and did look really good, hurt his hamstring pretty badly the first week. So he's been limited since then. Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders are both very promising rookies who've done well, but have some growing and developing to do, and haven't really been in a position yet to take significant first-team reps to beat out Flacco. And by the way, both of them have gotten hurt too. Dillon Gabriel tweaked his hamstring. Shedeur Sanders last week tweaked his oblique. And of course, for a quarterback, the oblique affects everything in the way that you move your torso. So Flacco obviously brings a lot of veteran stability. He knows how to run this Kevin Stefanski offense inside out. His arm is still as explosive as it's ever been. He very well could have won this job outright, but right now, the best thing about him has been his availability. The good thing, Jenny, is that the Browns can now finally start running offense suited and tailored to Flacco. Because head coach Kevin Stefanski even told us last week as we were prepping for last week's game that each quarterback does something a little bit different. And so they've been running different offense for each quarterback. Not drastically different, but now they can really sort of get into what they're installing, what their scheme will be, and move forward.
Yeah, having those one-on-one reps with the QB1 is definitely going to be key here. Now, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but are you insinuating that if there weren't health issues, you think this job might have gone to Kenny Pickett?
I don't know that because we didn't see the whole competition play out, right? We saw the first week. Now, in the spring, Kevin Stefanski was indeed giving the majority of the first-team reps to Kenny Pickett and a lot of reps to Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel. He explained that to everyone and to Joe Flacco himself as the fact that we know what Joe brings. We need to learn these other guys. Kenny Pickett, of course, had those 2 years starting in Pittsburgh. Then last year spent the year as a backup with the Eagles, went 1-0 as a starter. The Browns needed to learn him a little bit more. They needed to get a better sense of him. I know that they really liked his athleticism. His speed was very impressive to Kevin Stefanski. They felt good about what he could do, and then he got hurt. So Joe Flacco actually got more first-team reps than the Browns probably expected during training camp. Deshaun Watson, you're seeing over there, he's still not back from the re-torn Achilles. So it's a crowded room. And you're forgetting also Snoop Huntley is in there. They had to bring him in 2 weeks ago when Dillon Gabriel got hurt before the first preseason game.
So you just mentioned it's a crowded room. So what happens with all these extra QBs that they just have floating around?
Look, I can tell you this. Deshaun Watson isn't healthy just yet. We're still waiting to see how healthy Kenny Pickett is. I know Kevin Stefanski had said to me that he hopes Pickett could possibly be full go by this third preseason game against the Rams, but that's just a hope. And Shedeur Sanders, we don't know how bad that oblique is. And like I just said, for a quarterback, the oblique is pretty significant. So who's healthy? Are all 4 actually going to be healthy at the start of the season? I can tell you that Browns general manager Andrew Berry has insisted that he can keep 4 quarterbacks on the active roster. His feeling is that your last 5 guys on a roster are developmental guys anyway, and so why not keep a developmental quarterback? But I can also tell you, Jenny, that I was chatting with an offensive coach in the NFL just last night who was asking me about Kenny Pickett as a trade object for trade status. And I do think and not just Pickett, it could be Flacco. If you look around the league right now, there are still some unsettled quarterback situations. There are still some teams that potentially aren't totally satisfied with their quarterback rooms. There's a very good chance that Andrew Berry and the Browns are going to be fielding phone calls for any and all of these quarterbacks right now.
A little nugget there from Aditi. I love that. You're great at finding out these little scoops, and you did mention that you spent some real quality time with Flacco and his family earlier this summer. What else did you learn about him during that visit related to this upcoming season?
He's playing looser than he ever has. So he still has an enormous amount of confidence. You mentioned last year, Jenny, my crew, our CBS crew, had a bunch of games that Flacco actually played in and started for the Colts. And I can tell you this, Flacco made that offense go. We watched him engineer a comeback win over the Steelers. We watched him almost bring the team back against the Jaguars. We watched him win in Tennessee. It's hard to be in and out, not have it necessarily be your team. If you think about it, the Colts aren't going to give up on their first-round pick, Anthony Richardson. So that's why the keys weren't necessarily handed to Flacco. You go back a few years before that magical run with the Browns 2 years ago, and with the Jets, it was a similar situation. The Jets weren't going to give up on their first-round pick, Zach Wilson, no matter how well Flacco played. If you look at Flacco's numbers over his last 17, 18 starts, he's thrown for a heck of a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. That arm is still there. He's still motivated. But like I said, at this age, at this stage of his career, he's not nearly as stressed, and he doesn't feel the pressure of having to prove anything to anyone. And I think you and I both know this. When we're feeling loose, we just perform better. So that's a good thing. He's got a veteran offensive line. The Browns have gone back to running the ball the way that Kevin Stefanski likes to run the ball. The offense that the Browns ran when Kevin Stefanski won both of his Coach of the Year awards. So after last year's disastrous attempt to change offense, they're back to doing what they do well. They're expecting their second-round draft pick, Quinshon Judkins, to be back in the fold pretty soon, and they've gotten good looks from rookie running back Dillon Sampson. They like Jerome Ford. If they can run the ball much better this year, that also bodes well for this team. So there's optimism, and again, now you can actually settle into your offense. I'll say this too. I was at the joint practices with the Eagles last week, and you could see on the second day the Browns offense was functioning better against a really, really good Eagles defense. The Browns came out of those joint practices with definitely a boost of confidence.
Good news for Browns fans. Aditi, thanks for joining us here on HQ. Got some inside source from Aditi there. And the countdown until Sunday, it is on. NFL, it returns September 7th. It is right around the corner. You can catch all the action on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.